I used to love working a corporate job when the Euros or World Cup was on. Just did nothing.
Oh,
my
yeah.
God.
Just
Can
put
you
it on in
imagine
a
Europe
conference
right
room.
now?
Oh man, yeah, exactly.
No
They're
one's
already doing
working for
nothing.
the
They're doing
next
less than
month. Yeah,
nothing now.
exactly.
Yeah,
Now they're chilling the whole month.
yeah. You seen the productivity graph that was going around Twitter this morning, boys?
Oh my God. I didn't see it, but I can imagine.
Wait, can you show it, Jack? Jack,
Is it
let's do
falling
one
off?
I'll
last
try
game
and
of the week.
find it. No. It's like America versus Europe. It's like people are like, what is causing this?
Why has no one responded to my email for 2 weeks or whatever?
Well, this is over a decade, but the theme is productivity has risen faster.
Yeah.
So people are quote tweeting it like, what is it? Seed oils, Zin,
Seed,
shit
Zin.
like that.
Seed oil Zin. Oh my God. Yeah, the catch-all for anything that's going wrong, basically. Welcome to another episode of No Investment Advice. We got the sorry, I've got the giggles now, for fuck's sake. Sorry.
Keep it. No, we're not. Keep it, Rafa. Keep it.
Yeah, this is actually quite a funny way to start. All right, welcome to another episode of Not Investment Advice. My eyes are I'm literally crying right now. We've got the NIA boys here today, Jack Butcher, Trung Phan, Bilal Zaidi. I cannot stop laughing because Jack has been sharing some Euro clips with us. We've got a big little breakdown of all the funniest memes going on. The one that you sent, I don't even know if we can share this on the screen.
No, you can't say
there's
that.
a naked man on there, so we don't really want to be getting cancelled straight away. Bad for retention, you know. Last episode, we already started off real strong. The amount of messages I got about the beginning part. Also, Jack, that cold open last week. Rafa as well, great job on that. What did Jack say again last week?
Polymathic genius. Bro, I love everybody that sent us a message about that. So actually, before we do the memes of the week about the Euro Cup, let me preface by saying we're floating the idea of creating some Jack Butcher merch called Polymathic Geniuses.
Yeah, well, we're floating the merch as in, I said it in a text and now we're floating.
If you want overpriced t-shirts, we're not going to make any margin on it.
Edition of five or something.
yeah. Polymath Geniuses. It just
Make
has
sure
to
every
be
listener gets one.
Exactly. Just the 5, exactly. All right, boys. So where do we start? Because there's a lot that's been going on since the last time we spoke. I mean, there's the Apple AI stuff that's been going on. I think a lot of people covered it, so we will maybe touch on it, but maybe we don't even need to. The Robinhood stuff we covered a little bit before, but the Euros has been going on. Obviously, Jack and I, football fans. Trung is not as much, but he loves the memes and he's going to be following. I think in the World Cup you usually watch it, right? Like you watch the final.
Let me ask you guys.
Yeah.
You guys are the football fans. So a little inside baseball. I saw some photos from my co-host homes, and they look like they're ready, like they're flags.
That was
they're
Jack.
English flags, and one of them. Well, I'm not gonna. You doxed him. I didn't do that. So that's on you, brother. So I have to ask you. You guys have to talk me through. Is the Euro Cup better than the World Cup because you guys are from Europe? Is that it?
Well, no, it's just because you have a better chance of winning it because you're Argentina, Brazil. Yeah,
we don't have to deal with these South Americans.
No, but that's a good point, though. Do you know why? What I'd say, though, it's a great question. I'd say the World Cup is still the World Cup, but this is up there still because all these old historical rivalries start coming out, and you start seeing the cultural nuances of every little nation, and you kind of get some smaller nations that might not even make it to the World Cup, right? Because it's just the European countries, and it is really fun. Like it's every time an international tournament starts, I'm always like, oh, I don't really care that much. As soon as it starts, I'm watching Albania versus Turkey or whatever, like the most random game. Like what was it 100%. Yesterday? Romania versus someone. That game was probably maybe the most entertaining game of the whole tournament so far. I mean, incredible.
Because I remember when Greece won. That's why I remember that, because the Greeks in Vancouver went absolutely.
Oh my God, that was wild.
Nuts.
I
didn't realize how many Greek people lived in Vancouver. Just took the
Greek
city
people
over.
go hard when they party, man. They don't mess around.
So Jack, how about yourself? What is your answer to that question? Do you prefer the Euros?
Only for that reason. Like World Cup is obviously bigger spectacle, I would say. Like, and you get like the average game in the World Cup is probably more interesting at the beginning, but I don't know. The European rivalries are much fiercer than to Bilal's point than like international. Like England France versus England Japan, for example.
Yeah, or like England Bolivia. Like you're like whatever. You know what I mean?
Although
but if it's France, you're like
England or Argentina got some legit beef.
That's
and that's
true.
why.
That's true. There's exceptions to the rule. There's exceptions.
Yeah. But that's why 86
Euros is like, Euros is like, I don't know. Statistically, there's no reason to think this, but you're like, oh, they might do it. You know, in the World Cup, you're like, it's probably not going to happen. At least that's my view.
Or if you're England, neither, really, because it's been a very long time. I mean, no, but England actually have one of the best teams. I mean, for last few years.
You guys sent me one of the
memes. On paper, right?
You guys sent me one of the memes, Harry Kane. It said, when you guys sent it, it was like he got off a jet.
Jack,
and it's like, keep it
running. Leave it running, lads.
We won't be long. Is that a joke as in they're going to get eliminated early?
Yeah,
yeah.
That's probably the joke, yeah. But no, I will say, and I'm a big critic of the England manager in a way because I think he's a little bit old school for my liking. But England did make it to the final last time and they got to semi-finals in the World Cup, I guess. And so they actually have gone quite deep in the last few years. It's just on paper, England has maybe the most talented team, like especially the top 5. And they've literally got Jude Bellingham, who's the star of Real Madrid. Foden was the star of the Premier League this year. Bukayo Saka, golden child. Harry Kane, probably the best striker in the world
Big
alongside
Daddy
Haaland.
Kane? Big Daddy Kane?
Oh, there we go. Yeah, there we go. This is a great meme. Oh my God, that's so good.
That's a hysterical meme.
Right, do you want to explain that one for the 99% of people listening only, Jack?
Oh man. So it's like 4 blokes and a pickup truck. There's 2 guys pushing it, Saka and Bellingham. Foden is in the bed pushing the cab, and Kane is in the driver's seat just looking behind himself.
Yeah, with his 2 touches.
Yo, that is an incredible. That is
great
an
format,
incredible.
You'll love that one.
Format.
Yeah, you can use that one for sure.
Very good. Incredible.
The financial markets can be overlaid on top of
that meme quality
Nvidia.
is Nvidia. It's being pushed by everybody else.
Trung, this is the live memification going on.
Yo,
Trung,
hold on.
let's talk through what's going on in your mind right now.
He's itching to get that out.
Let's get the ideas out. People want to know this sort of stuff. What's going on in your head right now? Let's do it live. Trung is literally making it right now. I can see he's typing away. I
just Googled guys
pickup truck
pushing
meme,
a truck meme template. Okay. So
I'm glad you said meme template because that could go off wild if you be doing the wrong search there. Could end up on the wrong forum there.
Let me show you the original. Yo, this episode's already gone completely off the rails. We've already lost 40%. We've already lost 80% of our 5 listeners.
Mr. Beast would not be happy with the retention tactics here. Go on, what we got here? If you ever felt your brain is adequate, think of this guy. Yeah, okay, that's the one. yeah. Sorry. Okay, sorry, it took me half a second. God, very good.
Who you putting with Nvidia in the back, Trung? Who would you put back there?
I'm putting Nvidia in the front seat, as in all these big tech companies buying their chips don't even know if they need them.
That's a good point.
The market forward.
That's a good point.
I'm talking about the ticker. I would put the S&P in the cab and Nvidia pushing. The back
that's good. That's good.
Yeah. That's great. S&P and then behind them, all the big tech companies. All right.
Where would MicroStrategy go on there? Because we've talked about them joining the 500. So that
not investment advice. Not investment advice.
Definitely not. All right, we got a lot of memes to get through here. But this is again for people who aren't football soccer fans. Don't worry about it. This is all about the cultural discussion. It's nothing about football really. Yeah. Even though I did just start talking about the intricacies of England's top 5. But let's see what we got here. What was do you want to do the
Yeah, you guys gotta walk through it.
Give me 1 second here.
Do the spaghetti.
Where is it? Okay, share screen. So this is the sort of stuff you don't get this in the World Cup as much, so this is an Albanian fans bantering with Italian fans. So if anyone didn't see this, can you guys see
this is unbelievable. Yeah.
There we go.
Read the headline: Albanian fans breaking spaghetti in front of them.
Oh, there's no sound on this one, but you just see there's a guy on his knees, and then the rest of them are just like, oh my God, this is ridiculous.
To Jack's earlier point, if that was, first of all, ain't no Japanese fan doing that ever. The Japanese fans are way too polite for that shit.
That's a fair point.
And that's what we mean, right? We're getting a little bit more raw and rugged with these crews, these Europeans. these Eastern Europeans and the Mediterranean Europeans. They're
100%.
real fans. All right,
Well,
let's go.
and then, so Jack, I mean, you've been looking at a lot of these as well. Which one would you say? The Cole Palmer ones were pretty ridiculous, no? Was there any others?
They were great, man. I don't have any like context on that guy though. Like I don't watch the Premiership enough I don't know who he is, but the pictures are obviously funny as hell.
Well, so people don't know he's a Chelsea player who got sold from Man City to Chelsea, and he was one of the stars of the Premier League this year. And there was a lot of discussion, should he be starting over Saka and Foden? Like there's a big discussion around if he should be playing. And anyway, but people call him, I mean, he calls himself as well, and the Chelsea fans call him Cold Palmer, like he's so cold, like he's a G. And so his celebration is like, shaking like this, like I'm cold. And so then they released the official pictures. This isn't like taken from a game celebration.
Get it. Let me see.
Let me do this here. Share screen again. So yeah, you can see here on the right hand side here, Trunk. Can you see it? The way he's holding his arms like he's cold. Because in a game, he would do that as a celebration.
I saw this.
Oh my god! And there were so many. There were people like the next one here. He's upside down with a bunch of animals. There's another one here. He's cold with a bunch of penguins. It's just this one's good. Going down the slide at the water park. Man, it's unlimited meme potential here.
No,
but that was
guys,
probably the meme of the week from last week.
I got to bring something up about football.
Yeah,
that guy looks like the biggest dork in the history of mankind. Like, dude, compare him to an NBA or an NFL athlete.
Yeah, you're right.
Like,
you're
it's just, come on. It's just
like
not even
athleticism-wise, he looks like a weakling, right?
Well, let's just shout out now. The Boston Celtics just won the NBA title last night. They beat the Dallas Mavericks. Go look at a picture of Freezy Cold Guy versus Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum.
Freezy Cold Guy, yeah. No, that's an interesting. I always hear Americans talk about if the US put its best athletes into soccer, aka football, that they would wipe the floor, which I disagree with because I don't think it's about athleticism as much. There's a finesse that comes with soccer.
Well, that's a joke, though. That's a joke about LeBron. Everybody's like, LeBron, well, let me ask you guys. Everybody's like, LeBron James would be the best goalie in the history of football.
I mean, he'd probably be a pretty good goalie, to be fair, because he's massive, isn't it? Or like a centre back. You're like a defender. He'll just barge people out the way. He could probably head the ball a lot, yeah.
What else?
But look at this. The best player of all time is Messi. He's like 5'2" or whatever the hell he is.
Yeah, that's what I mean, man. Like,
so it's like this guy's... He is an elite athlete, obviously. But I think in the States, what we think of is like the big basketball players, the massive NFL players, Yeah. But also like like Tom Brady. I mean, he's big, but he's not... That's not what makes him the greatest, right?
No, but he is giant, though. He'd be a giant in football.
That's true.
Like 6'4".
Well,
okay, well, here. Let me bring one last thing before you guys finish that thought.
Yeah.
You ever see the Chris Rock bit?
Which one?
LeBron can play hockey with his dick.
Oh my God, Jesus Christ! We're gonna just keep it going then. Try.
All right, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, that's right. I don't have too many more memes. That was one. I also want to say shout out to that guy Russ who ran across the whole of Africa. He's now running to every single England game from the UK.
Oh my
all
God.
The way down, which is incredible.
I love sports, bro.
There was also one guy who woke up the next morning after the England game. Did you see this as well?
Please show us.
I'll just show you this last one, and then we can get it going with other stuff. Let me just rewind this here.
I mean, what other stuff? This is the goal. There is no other stuff.
Okay, just walking out.
Jesus Christ.
It's 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm shivering, choking down.
I mean, this guy literally woke up 4 a.m. the next day, and he's been there all night. Can you imagine that?
No one removed him.
I mean, how would that even happen? What, he went to the toilets or something? I'm just wondering how that would happen. But anyway, whatever it is. Either way, I'm enjoying the Euros. It's been... Jack, have you been watching any of the games or what? Just the England one.
Yeah, England I watched, and then just caught half of a couple other games, but I'm scaling into my position now.
Yeah, what round
We're in
the
group stages, aren't we? We're fourth day of it now.
Your dollar cost average in the game time, yeah. Yeah, it's still the group stages, but it is a lot of fun.
We
Tron,
got
what
another
about you,
England
mate?
game Thursday.
Dude, I've seen nothing.
Dial in.
Oh, I'm cheering for you guys. I'm cheering for you guys.
Thank you, mate. Thank you.
There's a big
It's a very
window.
unconvincing performance, Bilal.
Yeah, exactly.
Very
That's
unconvincing.
very average. I will say the good thing is though, man, like if you can get to a bar trunk where I'm sure there's some English people in Vancouver, right? And or like any of these games, but if you go to an English one, like people really go for it. Honestly, any of the if you go to the Italian ones, they're doing Italian shit. Germans go hard.
I should just go to Little
Europeans
Italy.
love
The
them,
Dutch
man.
ones, oh my god, the Dutch fans have been incredible as well. So yeah, it's very, very fun, man. Enjoying that for next month. And I guess the joke is that, you know, you'll be watching the shittiest games, man. You'll be watching like Albania versus whoever,
and just
like,
losing it.
Oh, this is a must watch game. That's what you're telling the missus. Like, I'm blocking it right now. I got the missus to add it to her calendar so she knows what I'm doing
where you're
for the
at.
next month.
I used to love working a corporate job when the Euros or World Cup was on. Just did nothing.
Oh my god!
Just
Can you imagine Europe right now?
Oh man, yeah, exactly.
No
They're
one's
already
working
doing nothing. They're doing less than nothing now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now they're chilling the whole month.
Yeah.
Anyway,
you seen the productivity graph that was going around Twitter this morning, boys?
Oh my god, I didn't see it, but I can imagine.
Wait, can you show it, Jack? Let's do one.
I'll try and find it.
All right, Jack.
No, it's like America versus Europe. Like let me find it. It's like people are like, what is causing this? I don't even know if I can find it.
What's causing this? Why has no one responded to my email for 2 weeks or whatever?
Well, this is over a decade, but the theme is productivity has risen faster.
Yeah.
So people are quote tweeting it like, what is it? Seed oils, Zin, shit like that.
Seed oils, Zin. Oh my god. Yeah, the catch-all for anything that's going wrong, basically. Anyway, good times. If you're watching the Euros, let us know how you're enjoying it. It's a good time just to come together, enjoy it. If you're in New York, I'll probably go catch some of the games in Williamsburg. There's a few bars there, Berry Park and
Banter. You remember that place? Is that
Banter
still open?
is great. Yeah. Banter Bar. It used to be. I don't know if it still is. Actually, I'm out the game.
To be my one.
The one in Williamsburg, yeah.
Yeah.
That was a good one. There's a lot of good spots.
There's a good place in Nashville called Fleet Street.
That's a good name. Good name.
Yeah. Arsenal pub actually, Bilal.
They're always the best ones.
Come through.
You know.
Wait, actually, I gotta. Sorry for doing this, but I'm pulling an audible on this episode, boys. I fully got to mention we should be talking about Pixar. I don't know if you guys saw Inside Out 2.
Let's add it in.
Why don't we? Would you guys want to kick off with that? Because it's interesting. Pixar is in a total shit shamble right now.
Should we do the Jack Dorsey one first, just to get the
let's do that.
Going? All right, let's get that going. Should I share my screen? Then I add a Pixar here.
Yeah, hit it.
All right, so anyway, enjoy the Euros. Let's watch a little clip here from Jack Dorsey, founder of Twitter. Also, I'm going to share this. Before I share the screen, his t-shirt goes so hard. This is incredible stuff here. All right, so this is Jack Dorsey, founder of Twitter, which is key here. Let's just play the clip.
Formerly known as Twitter, now X.
Exactly, formerly known, yeah. Right.
I sound a little bit crazy, but I think the free speech debate is a complete distraction right now. I think the real debate should be about free will. And we feel it right now because we are being programmed. We're being programmed based on what we say we're interested in. And we are told through these discovery mechanisms what is interesting. And as we engage and interact with this content, the algorithm continues to build more and more of this bias. But the algorithm, even if it's open source, is effectively a black box. You cannot predict 100% of the time how it's going to work, what it's going to show you. And it can be moved and changed at any time. And because people become so dependent upon it, it's actually changing and impacting the agency we have, the free agency we have. And I think the only answer to this is not to work harder at open source in algorithms or making them more explainable about what they're doing and why they're doing it, but to give people choice. Give people choice of what algorithm they want to use from a party that they trust. Give people choice to build their own algorithm that they can plug in on top of these networks and see what they want, and they can shift them out as well. And give people choice to have really a marketplace around an algorithm that you can choose.
Very interesting. I know.
Dude, he's a philosopher king, man. I'm a huge Dorsey fan. I think it might have to do with the beard and the Satoshi shirt, but
I mean, I was gonna say that the shirt does go hard though. The Satoshi shirt for people who are only listening. I mean,
I want you guys
would
to
wear one of
cook
those.
on this
Incredible.
very specific question from that
let's
point.
let's break it down. So from what I've heard there, he's saying, well, we all listened to it, so I guess I don't have to repeat what he said.
You don't got to break it down, bro.
But what I'm saying,
is social media costing us free will? Answer.
Yeah.
Go
And so
nuts.
my what I was going to say more is what stands out to me is this is the guy who created one of the leading platforms, obviously. So it's not like he's some random commentator talking about free will or whatever. And my initial take on this was, for a long time, people have been talking about the dangers of social media and all this sort of stuff. I normally anchor the other way. Like when someone's being critical, I normally am trying to find the nuance and middle ground. But in the last few years, I think I have actually changed my mind on it quite a bit. I've always thought most of the internet has been net positive, obviously. And then even with social media, I thought was mostly net positive. Until the last few years, I'm starting to really feel like actually, like we are, what you described, we're just being trained by we're slaves to the algorithm. We're just going down a deeper and deeper hole of being in these echo chambers, and it just is ruining our brains. And I feel like most people aren't aware of how much it's impacting them. And we could come on to the second part in a minute about what's the solution, the way he described getting algorithms you can opt into, etc. But I want to hear your guys' take first. Jack, I know you kind of had some thoughts on this.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably one of the most qualified people on the planet to comment on it, right? I think what he's saying is correct, and even the idea of a marketplace, in my mind, is like the way an algorithm functions or the way social media or social networks function is indicative of people's response to the things they're seeing. So like the solution he's proposing, I think this, like everything converges to the same result anyway, is what I'm trying to say. It's like, there's maybe a few edge cases where people are like, oh yeah, I have the light version of the algorithm, right? I have the kale version. You remember like George Max Razor, I think he even tweeted this in the context of that tweet, said, I want the cocaine algorithm and the kale algorithm, and I'm going to turn it on and off. And just at scale, I just don't know if behavior ever converges there, right? It's like the algorithms are trained on like the basal instinct or the thing that's going to make you watch longer. And if you train an algorithm on the opposite version of that, it doesn't get traction because people don't want that. Like these things are products of what people want, as opposed to
they want the bum fights. They want the bum fights. Like, but they're right. No, seriously, right?
Yeah.
I just think it's like like I have a huge conflict about this too, because I'm in the same position as you, Bilal, where it's like the internet has been this incredible unlock, like a massive economic tool for me personally. Like it was able to move all my work onto the internet and like location independent. But when you have kids, you're just like, you think about it differently of like, would I want to make your kids have any level of dependency on this? And it's like, if you can avoid it, no, right? It's like that whole adage of like Zuckerberg's kids are playing with abacuses and like wooden mallets and stuff, right? He's not letting them anywhere near an iPad.
Steve Jobs knew what he did with his iPad. Yeah.
And even Steve Jobs is like, he wasn't building like social media algorithms, right? It's like it was some utopian view of like creative tools. Yeah, I think I've learned a lot about this, like in the last couple years specifically, where it's like crypto is an interesting like revealed preference mechanism, right? Like these permissionless markets where people are just going to act in their own self-interest. Like at scale, like a market or like a chart or whatever it is just like emotion and reactivity to information or whatever. And I don't know, like without knowing how these things are constructed, it's like the whole, like there's a societal level of behavior change required to get people to like opt into less stimulating algorithms. Like the two have converged to the point where it's like social media is that now. like all the labels almost have to get thrown out, where it's like choosing to go to the library instead of going to McDonald's, right? Like there's a subset of people that would do that of their own free will, maybe. It's a small number, even if you don't have like turbo stimulation happening on the internet. But not to be a pessimist, it's like it feels like abstinence is really the like abstinence from those networks versus
digital detox. Honestly, it's that,
yeah. And it's like, so these things are fueled by user generated content, right? And even the incentives that the algorithm puts in place changes what people produce. So like over time, like what is the thing that is now incentivized? It's like get the most views, the most clicks, like this private likes thing we didn't talk about yet, but it's really what it does is on like X, Twitter, it removes another like layer of social connection where you're like, I need to think about, or like there's some externality to what you like, right? It's like a signal that you're sending to your network that you agree with this thing, or you're publicly associating yourself with this data point or a piece of information or media or whatever. And now it's just like you're in your own head, like building your own echo chamber without regard for what that signals to your network or whatever else, which I think pushes further in the direction that he's warning against. You know, it in my mind, but that is like how you build these, like there's a guy, Nishu, who's been a member of Visualize Value for years and years in the Discord, and he wrote this great tweet the other day about like there's been some like sci-fi representations of this, but the algorithm can basically like put you in this bubble where you can't speak to anybody. It can just like feed you everything and build this reality around you, but you have no like, it can kind of cordon you off into another version of reality. Like what he's talking about, the transparency or like understanding the mechanics of the algorithm, it's just like, that is, I think he's right to say like, that's not what we should measure against, because it's like, expecting people to learn that or understand it is like you need a computer science degree to understand how an algorithm works, even if it has a good explanation. But at the same time, it's like the way to even measure the experience you're having on social, the only like, I guess like coming off of Twitter, maybe you have this like, this would be my suggestion for how you even get close to it, is like, how do you feel? Like after you've been on Twitter for 10 minutes, how do you feel? Like optimistic, pessimistic, frustrated, pissed off, whatever that scale is. Like you can't, because you're so, and this maybe just be me speaking for myself, but when you're consuming the thing in real time, the metric that you and the network are measuring it by is how much attention you're giving it, right? And it's not really easy in the moment to be like, I feel like shit while I'm doing this, or like this is like affecting me in a way that I don't want it to. And that's where my, like, I guess where I'm at a loss for how you fix this problem is it has to be like a reflective thing afterwards, and then like a conscious decision every time to be like, I'm going to eat the broccoli instead of the Skittles.
Exactly.
And as we know, like maybe, I don't know, maybe there's a way to build UX patterns around that, but the profit, the attention, the incentives that drive like how you build an algorithm are not that at all. It's completely inverted.
Well, Jack, let me give you a perfect example of what you're saying. The Wall Street Journal had an article about Duolingo, which what's the joke about Duolingo now? People
you
can
can't
spend
really learn. Yeah.
You spend hundreds of hours. Well, let me ask you: have you guys ever used Duolingo?
Yeah, just for a little bit.
Only like a couple levels of it. Yeah. Spanish, I think.
Spanish, I think. Yeah.
Okay. No, that's the joke, right?
Yeah.
Somebody will use Duolingo for 10,000 hours and all they'll be able to say is "Donde están los bibliotecas?"
Yeah, right? Probably not even that. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely not.
No, but like, Jack, what you said is exactly the point. 99.9% of people are not going to the library. They're just not. They're going to McDonald's, right? Or the equivalent of McDonald's for content, left to their own devices. So why is Duolingo in such an interesting position? they're having to fight fire with fire, right? How else is an app on the smartphone going to compete with all the other garbage on that smartphone? You got to start doing these messed up growth tactics, right?
Yeah.
So this Wall Street Journal article had a fascinating thing. So for people who don't know, Duolingo is it's a $9 billion company. I had no idea.
Incredible.
It went public in 2021 at a $4 billion valuation. It's doubled, more than doubled. It does $500 million a year. For people who don't know the business model, it's a freemium, and then you upgrade for these extra levels. So it's a video game. And this is the joke about Donde está los bibliotecas, right? It's because you would get way more value immersing yourself with Spanish speakers for a week than 10 years of Duolingo, right? It's like, I think Lindy Man, popular Twitter account, said
I was just going to bring this up.
Tweet? Go on. Yeah, can you find the Lindy Man tweet on Duolingo?
You carry on.
I'll just say, he says that Duolingo is like the greatest performance art in the history of capitalism. It's just like, there's just nothing. Okay, go ahead. Oh yeah, okay, go ahead.
Did you see this? Is this the context of it that you?
No, he did a different thing, but why don't you tell people what we have here?
I didn't even realize the Dorsey thing was in this.
So it's an article from Lindy Man, Paul Scalise. He's a writer, online writer based. His whole shtick is based around Lindianism, which we talk about here. Is like the longer something's been around, the more likely it'll be around in the future. One of my favorite examples is Shakespeare, right? Shakespeare's been around for 450 plus years. It's probably going to be around in 450 plus years from now. Whereas a new piece of content, like anything me, Jack, and Bilal create in the next hour, that's going to be gone.
Hey, 100 and however many episodes, man.
Yeah.
That's Lindy.
We got
I think this is 169 today, by the way.
Yeah,
okay, nice. There you go.
Jack,
get?
Why don't you walk through what this is, and then I can finish my Duolingo thought.
All right. I was just going to reference the title of this. This newsletter, which is selling plastic and rubber to buy wood and stone. And the example he gives in the opening of the newsletter is Tucker Carlson doesn't have a TV or use the internet. But as you will know, if you're listening to this and you are a polymathic genius, you understand
which
is a
1.0 correlation.
There we go.
Exactly. He's like on record on Rogan saying that stuff is, what does he say? That stuff is bad. I don't go on the internet. I don't have a TV. I'm not into it. Stuff is bad. And, obviously
he's being on
built
TV
a good career off it. Yeah. And Dorsey, he had a similar path, right? It's like built this monster machine and then sort of became went monk mode and realized you don't realize before you've made the thing that it has all of these implications or second and third order effects.
Or it morphs into that later too, because there's parts in the beginning which obviously weren't just that. But boys, can I just say real quickly, because I think, Jack, you mentioned earlier, the example I think that best described this versus a library and McDonald's, I would just say healthy food versus junk food, right? Because at least they're both types of food.
Yeah.
And the thing is, consumption of that. And so why I would say that is, if you give people a cheeseburger and a piece of broccoli, and every day you say 3 times a day, make a conscious decision. Here's 2 of them right next to each other. Pick one. You're going to choose the cheeseburger every day. But the example is, well, how do people actually move away from having a cheeseburger every day? There's stages. There's an awareness.
Burger.
There's a broccoli burger that they throw in there. Just
cauliflower buns, right? You guys see that?
True. Yeah, ridiculous. But the point here is,
hey, we've cracked it, boys. We solved.
There we go. We've solved the problem. Yeah, just everyone needs a broccoli bun. But no, the point here is that, we've all done it as well, right? Jack, you've measured your broccoli on the scale. We've all had
100%.
And it doesn't mean you can't go have your burger. But the point is, if you actually want to make that change, a lot of it comes from an individual taking charge. First of all, knowing that this is an issue. I don't want to be unhealthy and fat or whatever you want to say. Therefore, I'm not going to have a burger 3 times a day forever. So that's a thing we've learned since we're kids. It's not a new thing. Whereas here, this is a new thing. Well, it is
technically pretty new, actually, because 50 years ago, obesity is a 40-year thing. But the comparison on social media is perfect,
isn't it, boys?
Yeah, it's
seed oils, yeah. But no, but you know what I'm saying, Jack? Sorry, Tron, compared to social media, obviously, is much younger.
No, but
it being an issue is younger.
It's a very good comparison, though, right? Is I'll give you I'll give an invention comparison. I want to keep working this analog you have.
Yeah.
So 50 years ago, the scientists invented something called the grass chromograph. Basically, they're able to tease out what molecules smell like, right? And so, like, when you eat a nacho cheese Dorito, like, there is cheese on that, but there's also other flavors that they've isolated as a molecule, right? And they've just hit our basal, like, evolutionary instinct. Is like, that smell means calories. We will eat that until the end of time. Social media is the exact same. They've just hacked, like, the smartphone combined with every notification designed for a social media app on your phone. That's just the equivalent invention of the grass, whatever the grass things that I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I've already butchered it. But Bilal, you're right though. It's like, that's one comparison people often make. It took about 30, 40 years for people to realize that these types of processed foods were actually bad for you. Yeah. Luckily, with the smartphone, it took us about 15 years to realize, oh, there's some really, like, they've hacked our evolutionary pathways for attention, for our emotions, our different, anger, fear, everything that Jack mentioned earlier. They've hacked that. And relevant to this episode, on Monday, yesterday, the Surgeon General of the United States says they might start putting a warning on social media apps. And there you go. It took cigarettes decades. It took food decades.
And I was about to give an example of cigarettes. I think cigarettes is a more extreme example where, there's pretty much no gain at all, right? Apart from having a social
the dopamine
thing.
hit's kind of nice. The serotonin.
And if you're in France, you got to do it because you just got to lean in. But the social media part is more of the nuanced part. Like, you can still use social media for good. Like, you can use the internet obviously for good. All of us are here because we met through the internet. We've built careers on it. All the things Jack mentioned earlier. So that's why when people, like, for example, Professor Galloway, I remember for ages was talking about, social media is like cigarettes and directly comparing it. Obviously, he's not given a nuanced take and he's saying something inflammatory by purpose. So that's where I'm saying there's more to it, right? Even junk food, as an example, can have its place, right? You can have a burger a week from McDonald's and still live a fairly healthy lifestyle. The problem is when you're doing it every day and you're not conscious you're doing it, you're addicted to the food or whatever. So the point here is, how do you actually get people to make that behavior change? The first thing I say is, whose job is it? It's not the social media companies, unless it's imposed on them, because their incentives are profit.
And they're doing that, right? Like you mentioned YouTube Kids many episodes ago. YouTube had to deal with that, make a kids app.
And what I'm saying, it would be great in an idealistic world if the company is like, we want to serve everyone and make sure they don't get addicted to our apps. But that's not the incentive. The incentive is to get people addicted and to keep them coming back. So the question is, whose responsibility is it? I would argue a lot of it is on the individual, like a lot of things, but also you could make arguments for policy, like you said there, putting a warning label like the way that you have on cigarettes. And that's kind of the first stage, is the mass awareness of understanding what is the nuanced response of taking this, and how do we have the equivalent of a burger a week versus having it 7 times a day?
Let's walk through the cigarette example, actually. It's a great example. Jack, did you have a thought before I jump into the cigarette example?
I was just going to say, like, it will also, like, these things like invert over time, where it's like the phone as the status symbol when it first comes out, to now, like, having your head in a phone all day is like the most opposite version of a, like, quote unquote luxury or like quality of life experience that most people will acknowledge, right?
Good point.
Like, whatever age or circumstances, like, people wish that they had a better relationship with their phone, in the same way that probably, I have an addiction that I am not in control of or wish I had a better handle over. That feels like we're like getting to that tipping point now where even people will like intermediate their relationships with digital stuff, right? Like, and that is obviously a very, very difficult thing to do. Like, to be a functioning member of society, to access certain like services that you have to use, you have to go through a lot of this stuff. So anyway, a sidebar.
No, it's a good sidebar. And I can finish my thought on cigarettes, and I'll do the quick lingo wrap. But well, let me ask you guys, do you just think about it? how quickly did cigarettes get wiped? I mean, I live in Vancouver, might be a specific case. I mean, Jack lives in Tennessee, but he lived in New York over the
No,
past
you're
decade.
right. When I see someone smoking, I'm always like, oh, I'm surprised.
Right.
I don't see many
Think
people.
about
smoke.
15 years ago, though. People smoking everywhere.
In a restaurant,
bro,
in a bar.
Yeah.
Dude, you'd walk
On
into
a
McDonald's
plane,
and you
bro.
walk
Remember
out
on
and you
planes, bro? That's
you'd
I
wild.
think
smell
even
like
when
a
we
cigarette.
were at university, like
Yeah,
you get
everywhere.
over, it's
The
like,
smoking
my
ban
clothes
happened at university
stinking.
for me.
Bro,
Yeah.
that was the worst part of going to the club,
Wake
right? You
up in
smell
your
like an
bedroom, you're
ashtray.
like,
Smell like an
what is
ashtray,
that?
right?
Yeah.
Smell like a
Yeah,
total
that's-
ashtray.
It's ridiculous that we were just taking in all that shit. It's
No, but think
wild.
about how
Your
quickly.
River Island gear is just getting
Oh my,
soaked in.
yeah, River Island kid. Oh my god, that's hilarious. Yeah, that's the a retail brand from the high
You're a
street front.
Nietzsche. You're a Nietzsche or you're a Fubu. Or
Oh
you're,
yeah,
you
man.
guys,
Visu jeans.
you guys
Yeah,
remember
yeah, no
Echo?
doubt.
You guys remember Echo?
Oh yeah, Echo Unlimited.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Lyle and Scott cardigans, Bilal.
Yeah, let's go. So, I know there's a few people singing the second line to that song where they said Lyle and Scott, but you know, and I'll let someone.
So
write
I
in the
just
comments
teased
for
the
that one.
cigarettes thing super quickly. Was like, it just took blah. You'd mentioned a couple things: government regulation and just social. It's
Yeah.
both, right? It was like it was just this
Awareness and-
recognition
yeah.
that dude, smoke is disgusting, and then like people started being like, bro, stop smoking. But there also start being signs in government buildings. There would be signs in certain restaurants. We don't want smokers. Advertising regulation, right? Like you go into a gas station now, it's all behind the black door. If you get a cigarette box, the nasty like lung cancer and throat cancer things that they're showing. So like multi-pronged attack. And I think to Jack's point about the luxury with the smartphone, clearly happening now is like, I think there's a huge sea change. And to go back to our boy George Mack, I'm going to bring up George Mack, the kill phone and cocaine phone specifically with Jack Dorsey's thing, because Jack Dorsey is talking about, he's like, free speech is a distraction because we're losing free will. True. And then he goes, the solution is the algorithm. It's like, no, the solution is not the algorithm. The solution is don't be on your phone. That's the solution, right? And I'm going to give you guys a number, which is pretty mind-blowing. I'm going to throw you this stat. I want your thoughts on it. So this is there's a newsletter called the Sublime Newsletter. One of the readers to this newsletter wrote this email in, and it's actually quite profound about how much we use apps, and it's related to Jack Dorsey and free will. Only decades ago, the average person had one source of information, if any, the local newspaper. It'd take an hour, maybe tops, of their day. 1 hour of 16 waking hours or 6% of your day. The rest of your day was spent creating value, conversing with others, 94% of your day. Desires were simple: work for food and housing and a way to get around, find love, raise kids, build something great, fight for justice for your peers, see the world. Today, the average American spends 8 hours a day consuming digital media, 50% of our waking hours. What happened to the world when people spend half their time watching other people? When thoughts of themselves and of the world and their desires are now shaped by taking other people's experiences, which are also shaped by the algorithms, instead of living 94% for themselves. Now, the one caveat I'd say is that people are watching a shit ton of TV in the 90s.
Yeah, I was going to say.
4 hours a day.
This
But
is not
broader point, digital
this
media,
is on steroids.
yeah, it's on steroids.
It's with us. It's like a TV in your pocket as well. You'd come home and watch TV for a few hours.
Did we ever talk about this on like, this was like early, like sub episode 10 NIA, but when we were talking about UK versus the States, the culture being like downstream of the media stuff. Did we talk about that? Like 5 TV channels in the UK,
Yeah, terrestrial
and 500 in the States, where it's like you have this like narrative that most people can consume the majority of and like align around or discuss, versus like this massive splintering of media, which
like
is
BBC
now,
1, 2, 3, 4,
like
5.
yeah, you're watching. Everyone's watching Big Brother at school, and you
Right.
go in.
Yeah,
Everyone's
exactly.
talking about the same thing, or Game of Thrones.
The
or whatever.
Office, you like memorizing every line to The Office is
Yeah.
one of my like, and literally if you meet someone like our age in the UK or anywhere else now, it's like you have this like formative reference point of
the
media.
reference points are similar. In between us, when I did it this weekend, I was like, girlfriend, you know, because there's I don't know if you've seen it, Trung, but yeah, there's but no, that's a good point. But can I just say one last thing as well, Trung? I think you made a great point, but one thing I'll push back on is this isn't cigarettes, this isn't junk food. There is a nuance here, and that's why I think it can become overblown on both directions. Like when I think I was resistant to it when that documentary came out on Netflix that was very popular. The guy that was doing the Facebook breakdown, and it was just very one-sided because that's what documentaries normally are. And my point here is, the social media we're complaining about is, we all use it every single day still. And we're saying, oh, well, we shouldn't use it, but we still use it, right? And so it's not as easy as saying just don't use it. In the same way, I would say anyone who's trying to get healthier, as if you say I'm never going to eat McDonald's again, that's probably not the right approach either, because you're going to, when you say you can't have something, you're going to want it more. And so there's a healthy relationship or perspective on how do I use this tool for good, and once in a while get the junk food version of it, but I need to have limits on it. And like you said, a part of that is a governmental thing, part of that is, and that should create incentives and accountability on the platforms to do that, and a lot of it is also on us as individuals. So I think the like all of these things become super simplified, and I think the second point was all about choosing algorithm, all that stuff, which we can maybe touch on in a second. But the point here is the healthy food example I mentioned earlier is, if you want to eat healthier, the first thing you do is when you go shopping, you don't buy Oreos and Skittles to bring in your house. You create rules. Yeah, and you say, well, I'm going to encourage myself to do the healthier things. I'm going to put the Kindle or the book next to my bed so it's easier for me. When I get to bed, I'm just going to look at it. I'm going to put a multivitamin in there. I'm going to wake up and have a bunch of water already. Or you went out the night before, you got the electrolytes already. Like, you can take certain actions to create.
I do that, bro.
Yeah,
I got the Gatorade
you're a
ready.
smart guy. Yeah, exactly. Go on, Jack.
I was just going to say, where the comparison gets interesting for me is like all of those other habits, like you control all the variables, and this is like you have this just like portal into you have no idea what you're going to see when you open your phone. And like sometimes, like, give a real example, is like maybe you're like between doing a couple things, like you're cooking dinner and you're about to go sit down and do something. I open my phone and I like scroll and I'm just like, why did I just read that? Or why have I just like consumed that thing?
Why are you going down?
And it is like Russian roulette ideas type thing. And I'm exaggerating here.
No, it's a gamble. Right? Like, it's a roll of a dice. Roll of a dice.
You don't know in the same way. It's like that meal has this many things that are not good for me, and this one doesn't. Yeah. And the other is like sometimes you open up, I'm like, oh, that's an inspiring, cool thing. And the black box algorithm is like, hey, Bilal's gonna watch like this like car fly off this cliff.
Yeah.
Now,
No, this is a great point. This is a great point. Because Jack, that's actually closer to what we had before, let's say with Twitter, before the change to interest-based. That's why I like Twitter so much.
Right.
Was because I would be seeing stuff of people I follow.
Oh, I changed that version of Twitter changed my life. That was like, it was the most unbelievable. Yeah.
And I enjoyed it so much more. And not to sound like, oh, the good old days, but genuinely, I don't use Twitter. I use Twitter like 10 times less since then, since the changes. And we've talked about this before. It's like, if there's a fight in the playground, everyone runs over, right? That is fine. But if I'm choosing to curate something, that's why I really did enjoy Twitter over other platforms, because everyone else was doing, interest-based stuff. And it was just sucking me in. Now, the interesting example, though, is TikTok, which is the most on steroids algorithm. Interestingly enough, I leave TikTok, even though I probably feel the dopamine, a bit more energized or whatever. I actually feel pretty good leaving my particular feed. Now, so that might be different for other people. Whenever I leave Instagram, I always just feel like this was boring. I didn't even like it, or there wasn't anything engaging. Twitter, I feel similarly like half the time. With TikTok, for some reason, because it is actually based on, their algorithm is just really good. I see funny stuff. I see gym stuff. I see some food stuff. I see some music once in a while. I see a Theo Von clip that makes me laugh. And that actually is pretty good. Here we go. For you follow. Let's go on. Jack, can you read what it is for people listening?
Friend of the pod.
Oh, you're on mute, Jack.
Yo.
Sorry, boys. It changed my little interface here. I was just pulling this. I didn't mean to interrupt you for reference.
Go on.
Adam Singer, friend of the pod, has been referenced a couple times here.
It's very good.
Had this great tweet. I think it was a couple yesterday. It's like For You following, same format as the how it started, how it's going. The For You picture is the Idiocracy, like multi-screen, ow my balls. Like,
wait, that's Wall-E, right? Or is that Idiocracy?
Ad fest. That's Idiocracy, yeah. I rewatched it a couple of days ago. Me and Celia watched it, man. It's incredible.
Aged perfectly.
Yeah, it's just so incredible. Actually, did you know that Celia was telling me this? She listened to some pod with Dax Shepard, and he said that film completely bombed when it came out. It's like focus groups hated it. It did shit at the box office. Like it just completely tanked for years, and then it just clicked, and now it's like, you know, it's like a prophecy, this thing. And then sorry, I went off. And the right hand side is some like drawing from, I don't know, ancient Rome or ancient Greece of people studying scrolls and building a library on the following side.
There we go. That depth, though, yeah.
It's a great meme.
That's a great meme. And that's basically the summary of what I was trying to say. And it's, well, obviously TikTok is not exactly the same, not exactly the same as the right hand side either. But my point is that because we've all moved away from that, it does take away the control. So I will say what Jack Dorsey's saying about giving people the option to opt into that. I don't think people are going to understand or need to understand how algorithms work and all that open source stuff about it. But for the actual user to be able to say, for example, I want to just curate my feed. I only want to see people I actually follow. That seems like quite a reasonable request as a user, right? The reason they're not going to do it though, unless they're forced to do it, is because there's not enough content from people you actually follow. Like the Instagram head has said that. Right. The reason you're getting all that algorithmic stuff is your friends. I mean, when was the last time you posted in your actual feed? Mine was like 5-6 years ago. And all my friends are the same. If you might post you got married
TV
or
now, basically, isn't it? It's
exactly.
Like a TV relationship, yeah.
Yeah, and the stories maybe, there's a lot more like stuff going on, but that's the point. They need more content surface. So all of this is saying the incentives aren't aligned for the good of the user versus the incentive for the platform to keep you hooked. And so there is something that needs to happen there to correct that. And I do like the idea of being able to opt in to certain algorithms, but that's the bigger topic.
Have you boys heard of this like new label people are trying to apply? Instead of spam, they want to call it slop. Have you seen this?
No, that's hilarious. What does that stand for?
Slop. I think it's just like shorthand for like AI generated shit. Yeah, Hacker News.
Oh, got it.
You know what's funny
is
the
name for unwanted AI generated content.
There's a few
you know what's
things
funny
that
is you can totally
means,
tell though, like you can tell when something's an AI image, like instantly. It's actually crazy how quickly that happened.
Completely, yeah.
All right.
Anything else on that, boys, before we wrap up the last section?
Oh yeah, I'll say two quick things on just for out of interest, Duolingo. So the WSJ article is just the type of notifications they send is hysterical. They're like, they wrote about the 2 best notifications. So the big thing that they do is streaks. I know that some old school Snapchat users might remember this. You know, I had a snap streak with a friend where you message each other and you don't want to lose that streak. So it turns out that this streak mechanism is quite powerful. It's a loss aversion, right? People don't want to lose a streak. So the way that Duolingo leverages that is this. So first of all, there's 5 million of the 30 million users have a year-long streak. Think about that. Every single day for at least a year. That's insane. The longest streak is 4,200 days, which is crazy. But the 2 notifications they send, and again, like Jack was saying about your smartphone, this is different. It's a different beast, right? This is just not like totally junk-free cigarettes. It just grabs your brain. You get that notification from Duolingo, you're put into action. So notification 1 that they use, one of the most effective. If there's 1 hour left in the day, this is so devious, they'll send you a message. You'll be like, hey, you have 1 hour left or you're going to lose this streak. And apparently that gets huge usage of the app. Feels a little bit devious to me. Smart. But I'd be like, God damn, you hit me with that. The other one is if you haven't used the app in 7 days, it hits you on that 7th day. And they're like, hey, it looks like you're breaking a habit. It's like guilting you.
Oh,
and it gets people back on. It's crazy. So
they know what they're doing, man.
Yeah, the AB, that's a $9 billion company. So right there.
They know what they're doing for sure. Yeah, respect.
So that was good, man. That was a meaty talk, boys.
Yeah, good discussion. Jack, anything else before we move on to the next topic, mate?
No, boys, that was good.
Yeah, go, let us know what you think of that.
Another one we can write off.
Comments.
Solved. Problem solved.
Exactly. Yeah. Problem solved. Yeah. That's what people come here for. The real issues facing
dealing with
our world. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, let's wrap it up with Adobe Antitrust or Pixar or Apple AI. You tell us what you want to do.
Let's
Pixar.
fire off on Pixar because Pixar is fascinating.
Let's do it.
Well, you guys seen Inside Out 1? The first one.
I actually haven't.
I don't even know what it is. You have to do a
okay, well, hold on.
Us.
Are you guys aware of Pixar's first 10 years, like the greatest run in film history? So I'm gonna give you guys what they've done.
Yeah.
1995, Toy Story. 1998, A Bug's Life. 1999, Toy Story 2. 2001, Monsters Inc. 2003, Finding Nemo. 2004, The Incredibles. 2006, Cars. 2007, Ratatouille. 2008, WALL-E. And then 2009, Get the Tears Out, Kleenex, Up.
There is no second best animated
how is
studio.
that?
Oh my God.
How is
Incredible.
that for a
Crazy run.
film streak?
Crazy run.
And so I'm gonna tell you guys a couple of things that you appreciate and why this is a topic. So Inside Out 2 just came out. It had a massive opening. I think it pulled in 300 million global. I watched it with my son on Friday. It was the biggest box office haul first weekend for an animated film ever, global. So huge. But what's interesting about Pixar is that run I just told you guys about has not been like that for the past decade. So listen, you're going to have a run like that. It's one of the greatest runs ever. It's going to be very difficult to top it. But what's happened in the past 4 or 5 years is that they've hit a lot of duds. Part of it has to do with COVID, right? So you guys probably might not even heard these films that came out. Luca, Turning Red, Lightyear, Elemental. Have you heard of any of those films? Either of you?
I don't
Have you
think so.
seen any of those films? Right.
No.
So that came out during COVID. A couple of those went straight to Disney Plus. There's a lot of annoyance about that from the filmmakers. But the interesting thing about Disney, remember, this is a Steve Jobs shop. Steve Jobs bought Pixar, or the computer animated division of Lucasfilms, from George Lucas for $5 million in the mid-'80s after he was kicked out of Apple. I mean, this is the source of Steve Jobs' wealth. When he died, he was worth, I think, $7 or $8 billion. It's because he owned 4% of Disney. It's because Disney acquired Pixar for $7.4 billion in 2006 in largely Disney stock. The interesting thing about Disney is, or Pixar, is, I don't know if have you guys ever heard of the Pixar lunch? You guys ever heard of this?
No.
So the main,
I've heard the Diddy lunch, but that's gone down. The Diddy brunch, but yeah, sorry. Well, let's
you guys will laugh.
move on from that. But yeah,
there was a single lunch at Pixar. It had the following people. They're known as the Brain Trust. John Lasseter, who was basically Me Too'd out of Pixar in 2018. He's a handsy guy. So
maybe
he's no
I was
longer with Pixar,
right with my example here. Yeah, go on.
Yeah. So exactly, right? John Lasseter, Pete Docter, Andrew Stanton, and a guy named John Raft, who passed away in 2006. They're known as the Brain Trust. They had a lunch in 1994, and they came up with all those movies I told you guys about. They basically came up with half of them at that one lunch. A single lunch produced what's become $8 billion at the box office. It's like it's the greatest work lunch ever. And the greatest like argument for going back to the office. So you guys remember Steve Jobs when he you guys know about the Steve Jobs, the way he built his offices, right? Where he wanted serendipity. He wanted people to bump into each other. And you guys know about that, like
isn't that kind of what really led to a lot of the open plan offices? Like a lot of people did it,
which we kind of hate now, right?
And a lot of the tech companies did that, and then it went to cubicles again, and now it's like working from home and whatever.
Yeah, it doesn't work for every institution. Right? Pixar is a small place. You have an open plan office.
For creative, it's very different, right? Than like focus deep work on your own. Yeah,
because Google was one of the main companies that went this way. And then tell me about your experience with the open office plan.
I think it was great for fostering a good vibe, but getting work done is a lot harder. It really depends on the sort of work you're doing. Like creative teams, like I said, it was great if someone could just come over and be like, hey, can I grab you for something? and you could actually a lot of things did come out of that, but for proactive deep work, it's the worst because you just get interrupted. So I can probably do what I did in an 8-hour workday there in 2 to 3 hours at home. Like but I don't have kids, so someone else with kids is like, well, I can't do anything at home. So it just depends on the individual. But yeah, so for vibes, it was great. For actual deep work, I think is difficult.
Did Google go back to cubicles?
I don't think they went to cubicles, and now they've actually moved to where a lot of people don't even have fixed desks anymore, which is quite interesting. Yeah, which is kind of wild because that's a lot of people. So if you're going in, you're trying to find a desk every day. Actually can take a little while sometimes. So and I don't know if I don't think that's all employees, but a few of my friends I saw recently that's how they're doing it.
Well, that was that whole thing was made from Bell Labs, like the AT&T research lab. They famously in their office, I think it was New Jersey, they just had a wide open space. It's because it's very different, right? Like you're just putting the smartest people in every field, physics, chemical materials, business, and hoping they bounce together. But like Pixar, that run that we talked about, that incredible run. I mean, Steve Jobs literally built one of the greatest creative organizations ever. And he was a money guy. Like he was cutting this company. I think he bought it for $5 million from George Lucas, put in another 50 to 100 mil. And he said about Pixar that at the time they IPO'd in 1995. So people might not know this, but Pixar went public a week after Toy Story crushed it at the box office, the very first film. And Pixar was in this kind of frenemy relationship with Disney. Disney had the distribution, Pixar made the films, and it was like quite tense, but Steve Jobs, master negotiator, and Pixar just became this monster. They basically used Disney's distribution, and then Disney had to go buy Pixar 12 years later in 2006, 2007. But back to The Office, Steve Jobs famously, like he built an atrium where everybody kind of bumped into each other at Pixar. But the Pixar like DNA was like this super creative thing. But Bilal was joking about P. Diddy lunch. Like John Lasseter he was a creative engine of this company. He got outed in 2018 for some Me Too stuff. Like, listen, I'm not defending this dude. It sounds pretty freaking creepy. But it wasn't like Harvey Weinstein level, but he was outed. But if you're wondering why this company, why they had this bit of a slow spell, I mean, you just gotta call it what it is. Like, you lost a creative engine, right? It's like, that's basically what happened. He went to Skydance, which is owned by David Ellison, which is Larry Ellison's son. And that was quite controversial. But anyways, Ed Catmull, who partnered with John Lasseter to found Pixar, he had said that sequels are moral or a creative bankruptcy, as in you're just giving up. You're milking the same thing over and over again. And that's just kind of the phase that Pixar is in. And Ed Catmull, when he started Pixar, he's like, but he understood the business of it. He's like, I want 2 original films for 1 sequel. And it's basically flipped in the past decade. So now we're getting 2 sequels for every 1 original film. But what I would say about this particular story and Inside Out 2, the relevance of it is this movie's crushing it, which means Pixar is going to be flush again. And I would expect, my bet is the next 5 years to have a new tentpole kind of franchise that we'll all know about. And the other thing to know about John Lasseter, it wasn't just Pixar. This guy shepherded Frozen, which Jack, you told me you don't watch TV at all or YouTube, or is Frozen anything in the Butcher
I'm aware
household?
Of the franchise.
Yeah, it's massive. It's just a juggernaut, right? And also John Lasseter. The last thing I'll say about Inside Out is if you haven't watched it, the first one, definitely watch it. And the sequel, obviously not for a lot of people, it's not going to be surprised. It wasn't as good as the first one. But have you guys seen Uncut Gems?
Oh, fucking great film.
Okay,
Yeah, good film.
So you guys will appreciate this. The last thing we'll do with Fun Fact Fan for this week is Inside Out. You guys had asked me the premise since you hadn't seen it. The premise is actually brilliant. And a lot of these Pixar movies, what makes them work is that they're very universal themes. The premise is this. The story takes place in the brain of an 11-year-old girl, the original. And each character is just an emotion. Joy is a character, sadness, anger. That's called the big idea. You guys get that, right? It's a personification of emotions. Joy, anger, fear. Like, it's a very smart concept that anyone can understand. The sequel introduced a new character. The character was anxiety. Guess which film they based this character off of?
Well,
Uncut Gems.
but
Yeah, exactly.
Crazy.
Wait. I wish I had the wide view on all three of us because I was thinking, is this answer going to be too obvious? But then Jack looked around and was like,
Is it Uncut Gems?
I guess it's going to be Uncut Gems since you said
Can
it
we
before.
talk about?
He doesn't
Can we
think that we're
talk about-
polymathic enough to get it without
Exactly,
without the clue.
The polymath came out of Jack
Just
there.
spoon fed you guys the answer,
Yeah.
That's
right?
hilarious. I
Well,
love the
let me
way
ask you guys-
Trung had a straight face too. He was like, you never know. Just guess. Guess what it could be. You're never going to get this. You know?
Let's figure this out. Let's talk about Uncut Gems. What were you guys feeling when you watched that movie? I was like, oh my
man.
God. Dude, the stress levels.
Oh, yeah. It's intense.
It's a great film. It just reminds me of like the way they shot it and like that little section of New York. You know, I used to work on 46th Street, boys, like literally 100 meters from where all that film was shot.
Is this what? Is
So I
it
would go down.
Diamond District or what? What is it?
Diamond 47th and 6th, yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
the Safdie brothers, man. You
yeah.
know why? I'll tell you a couple of
Incredible.
details of why it feels that way. The visual language. They use a steady cam that follows the guy and it's shaky on purpose.
Oh,
and then-
yeah.
And then typically in movies, you'll isolate the voice. Like people will have dialogue one at a time. If you watch the movie again or remember,
So the
everybody's yelling over
background
each
noise.
other. Yeah. So much
that's
background
interesting,
noise. The other thing they did was
great film.
yeah, great film. They didn't use a lot of actors, as in a lot of the extras, like the people that did the diamond.
They actually worked there.
workers. Exactly. So you don't recognize them, so you don't assign any previous value to them or any thing, and then you're just thinking about this character, and they're so real, right? But yeah, man, that movie, dude, The Weeknd, Adam Sandler, Kevin Garnett, unbelievable film. I probably won't ever
Incredible.
watch it again because the stress level
It
is
is
insane.
intense. Yeah.
Great movie.
All right,
Great
boys. We should
boys.
probably wrap it here because
Yeah.
we're going to be recording more. So, thanks for being here. Let us know what you think of these, the discussion style chat in the middle, as well, guys. And we will see you next week. Cheers.